Hi, it's Josh here. I want to explain the difference between an actual portfolio and a scenario. So, your actual portfolio is the current holdings of property that you already have. So, your principal place of residence, your investment portfolio that you have as it stands today. And so, the actual portfolio is intended at being a portfolio tracker. So, you can stick your current properties in and track where you're at any point in time. Now, what it doesn't allow you to do is anything into the future. So we can't buy additional properties, say tomorrow onwards, but we can put in properties that we already own, and we can keep up to date with what are the expenses, what is the income, what's the valuation. So we're really keeping our finger on the pulse and replacing those spreadsheets. Now, interestingly, when we build out our actual portfolio, we're using this as a foundation for our scenarios. So you can't necessarily just have 5 properties and then start from a blank slate. What we want to do is we want to start with your 5 properties, and if you did want a blank slate and you needed to adapt your portfolio to grow, you would have to sell those properties. So by putting all of your assumptions and your information into the system, then duplicating your actual portfolio, that gives us the foundation for our scenarios. So the easiest way to identify if you're in your actual portfolio or whether you're in the scenarios is this little flag here. So it either says actual or it says the scenario. Now, we use this portfolio and we can add properties, but I'll show you when we're adding a property into the scenario here, sorry, into the actual portfolio, we cannot add anything in the future, and I'll show you what I mean. So we try and do this, and it says it must be today or in the past for your actual properties. And this is because we already own them. We don't need to verify that we can afford them. We've already got them. And so the process for adding these is a much more simplistic, and there's no forecasting in terms of borrowing capacity and things like that, because it's already taken into account because you already own it. So what you do is you add the property. You would obviously know the address. So if you said like 12 Smith Street, let's just use Darwin City as an example, and then residential, you put your entity and you put your owners. So for example, you put in Nick owns this. If there was more owners or more people in the portfolio, you can add them as well. Now, the savings balance after purchase, this is not necessarily super important, but if you were to purchase a property today, for example, or yesterday, you would know what your new savings balance is and that what you've used, and this would come off the savings that you had put in your assumptions. So you can update it either way. And then what you do is you just add the property, save and continue. It needs to be in the past, so let's just say we purchased it in 2018, and now we give it a nickname as a investment one. And then we go save and continue. Is this a principal place of residence or is it an investment? Continue. And now we know all the details. So if we fill in the purchase price, we might put in an agent fee, some stamp duty, and then a building inspection fee. Continue. Now we want to put in our lender's details. We know all this information because we already own it. So it's pretty straightforward. Our remaining loan balance might be 300K. We've still got 24 years left on our loan. Monthly payments with an interest rate of say 6.19%. Save and continue. What do we think the value is now? 500K. This is really just capturing the property growth rates from today onwards, so from 2025 onwards. Let's just say it's 5%. What are we currently getting for rent? We all know these things, so we can enter them in. What is the growth rate we want to apply? Total expenses, we also know these. If you want to use a breakdown, you can use the breakdown as well and add them in. 10,000, the more accurate and more nuanced you are, the better the results. If you have a depreciation report, you can put in the depreciation as per the report. Save and continue. And now what we want to do is, if there's any capital expenditures that have been done, such as a granny flat renovation or anything like that, you can add the capital expenditures here. It's pretty straightforward. This obviously goes into the capital gains tax calculations at the end. So capturing everything makes it far more accurate in the modeling. If there are none, just continue. Now you've got an actual property. You can see the flag here is that it's actual. And we've also got the photo here pulled in as well of this property. So basically what we want to do is we want to then look at the chart. So we've got a property here, basically total debt, remembering we purchased this many years ago, 7 or 8 years before this, and we've got a decent yield on this property. Now, this is going to be the foundation for a scenario. So now that we've got our actual portfolio in, we can't necessarily do anything further than track. What we can do though is we can do rental adjustments, we can do valuation adjustments and edit assumptions, and we can also change of use, but only as of today or previously. We can't do any forward-looking analysis. Now, one thing I want to highlight here is that when we're going to build out a scenario, we want to go to scenarios and we want to use the plus scenario button, and we want to go say test scenario, and it's a normal scenario, and it's basically what we've got here is we've got Nick scenario, Nick portfolio, which is the actual portfolio, and then we're going to go save scenario. So now that we've got that done, we now have a test scenario, which is a direct duplicate of the scenario that we just had in our actual portfolio, and now we can play around with it however we want. So we can say, for example, all right, we want to sell this property, or we want to buy another one. We can then add in additional purchases into the future, see what that looks like. We can also change our financial information and say, look, we're now on $120,000 a year. Let's update our savings income, which will affect our borrowing. And this is really why the key differences between actual and scenario. Scenario, you can let your imagination run wild, whereas the actual portfolio is what you've got and tracking your portfolio as it is now. And then you can compare the two. So you can use the comparison tool to compare your actual versus, hey, if I sold one of those properties and bought a different property, what would that look like? And you can obviously compare those as well. I hope this helps. Thanks.